It's a solemn day for Ukrainians around the world as the Russian Federation has sent their armies into Ukraine earlier today, bombing numerous cities around the country. And here at the Alberta Legislature, hundreds of people have gathered in support of the country of Ukraine and their independence. We're going to talk to some people and see how they feel about the events of today.
So when Russia invaded Georgia in 2008, nobody would expect that the same thing would happen with Crimea. When Russia invaded Crimea in 2014, nobody would expect that a war will start in the east of Ukraine. And then the entire Ukraine will be under attack. The history, something happened before. In 1939, when Hitler invaded Sudetenland, occupied it, and then invaded Czechoslovakia, and this is how the Second World War started. We don't want another world war. We need this to stop right now.
I'm here today with
Brad Lafoy.
And what brings you here today?
I'm of Ukrainian-Canadian descent. My wife is from Kiev. We actually met by the Euromaidan in 2014. What's happening in Ukraine right now is worse than I think anybody anticipated or could have imagined. And I think it's just so important right now that people around the world stand up and at the very least show our support, show our solidarity, make it clear to our governments that we are behind any and all sanctions that can be put in place, anything at all that can be done to support the government and the people of Ukraine. And if that's nothing more than a moral support and showing that we stand behind them and we believe in them, then at least that's something that we can do from so far away.
Fair enough. Do you personally have a message for the Ukrainian people?
Stand strong. We stand with you. And you will win this. You've survived so much horror in the past. You'll survive this. And we stand with you. Anything we can do. Canada is your friend. You have only to ask.
We will stand against this Russian aggression. We condemn in the strongest terms this violation of the sovereign nation of Ukraine. This aggression by Russia is a threat to the rules-based order that we have lived in since the Second World War. Ukrainian Canadians, we stand with you. We stand with Ukraine. We have put in deep sanctions and they will continue. Every member of the Duma has been sanctioned. We have turned off the taps to 2 Russian banks. We have sent lethal aid to Ukraine. Our troops are stationed on the borders. Operation Unifier has been moved just out of harm's way, but we are there to stand with NATO, with our allies, and we will say that Putin will not win. Ukraine and democracy will prevail.
As an Indigenous person myself, we've cherished these lands for thousands of years. My family, right from the very beginning of these lands in our creation stories to today. And when we speak of the Ukrainian people, we often speak of them as one of the strongest, most reliable neighbors to have.
I'm here today with
Blake Desjardins, MP for Edmonton Griesbach.
What brings you here today?
Well, we're really facing a really tragic situation right now, not just here in Canada, but across the world, particularly with our relatives in Ukraine. The world order as we know it, the 75-year peace that our grandparents have enjoyed, is truly a threat right now. And Putin is someone who can't honestly be negotiated with. He's a complete tyrant, joining the ranks of the most evil of the world's tyrants, right up there with Adolf Hitler, and he cannot be negotiated with. At this point, we do know that Canadians need to support efforts to ensure that sanctions, stiff and strong sanctions, and de-escalate the situation by way of targeting the oligarchs and the SWIFT system, for example, a very complicated series of financial institutions that allow oligarchs in Russia to continue to manipulate the market, not only within their own domestic sphere of influence, but across the world. So it truly is an emergency, a global one, unprecedented.
And do you have a message for the Ukrainian people?
Oh, keep fighting. Keep strong. Help is on the way. Please know that your allies in Canada and the entire Western world are with you. Democracy, an attack on democracy in Ukraine is an attack on democracy everywhere, including the democracy our ancestors fought for right here in Canada. Hi, hi.
And lastly, do you have a message for the Russian people?
The Russians, you have a choice. You can be on the right side of history here. You can, in fact, choose by way of your efforts where you are right now, wherever you're watching, wherever you are, demand that your government stop this. They are killing innocent lives in this world right now as we speak. It's your responsibility to ensure that this cannot continue. We need all peoples across this globe to unite, including Russians and including those who are right in the capital in Moscow, to do their part. We must destabilize this evil and tyrannical force from all angles. Please be strong and have the courage to stand for what's right.
For 20 years, the West has treated Putin and Russia as a geopolitical equal. And for 20 years, they've appeased Vladimir Putin and Russia. And for the last 8 years, they've offered little more than words and toothless sanctions in support of Ukraine. All the condemnations in the world did not stop artillery shells from falling from the sky. I call on the Canadian government to work swiftly with allies to provide real defensive weapons to Ukraine, not just rifles. If we can't count on military support, give us the tools we need to win this fight alone. I call on the Canadian government to impose sanctions not on Russia, but on Italy, on Germany, Cyprus, and Hungary, other so-called allies, which refuse to disconnect Russia from the SWIFT monetary system and cut off Putin and his oligarchs from the billions plundered through corruption and war.
Last night, when we heard the news of what was happening in Ukraine, when we heard what was happening to the Ukrainian people, we have been worried about this. We have been thinking about this for so long. And last night, when it actually happened, when it was worse than we even thought it was going to be, my heart was breaking, because no matter what, we have to always remember that what is happening in Ukraine is affecting Ukrainian people. That these are families, these are women, these are children, these are men who are going to suffer because of the megalomaniac madman that is Vladimir Putin.
We will continue to pressure the government to ensure that they fully support Ukraine in not only sanctions and not only supporting them in ways, but also with sending weapons as well. We need to be able to send weapons. Canada should be sending weapons.
So after a vigil which included numerous speakers, including many politicians from Edmonton and the surrounding area, as well as numerous prominent members of the Ukrainian-Canadian community from here in Edmonton, people continue to congregate here and discuss the situation, most of them Edmonton Ukrainians themselves. And hopefully peace comes between those two countries, Ukraine and Russia, as soon as possible. This has been Clint Hoekstra, on location for the Keep Times with Levi Gogerla on the camera. Peace.
Слава Україні! Слава Україні! Слава Україні! Смерть ворогам!